Well, exactly. You just brought it all full circle. I love Seven Sisters. We get it done. You guys knew exactly where we were going with that. Exactly. And I'm so glad you used the word responsibility. So mindfulness has really broad applications. And you saw a couple of different ones today, and I shared one of my stories with you. But I think that our first example of a great challenge was a first-year student. And when we're thinking about people who are coming to college, this is incredibly stressful. It's new. It's the first time people are leaving their families. So you're in a position of tremendous responsibility and authority. And mindfulness can really offer us tools as leaders. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this. The first time I did this exercise, because I've done it too, I was shocked about how much more I got out of a story. I got the empathy piece. I could see myself in the other person. I also really understood when they were talking to me, because I was fully there, the emotion that they were relaying. And it made it a really different active role. It wasn't a passive role. So, does anybody have any ideas about how this could potentially transcend this room and how it could be useful to you over the next week or two? Yes?
To listen to other people's stories, because you're going to get the whole group of people like come from all different places, having all their stories. So just like listen to them and just don't make any judgments. Like if they tell you a story, just make sure like listen.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I think it's important to think about how you present your narrative. We've all been first years at some point, and being able to relate that and tell our own stories in a way that's helpful to the incoming students. I think it's a very good balance.
And I think it's a fine line, right? Because you can't. Did anybody see the Brene Brown vulnerability TED Talk? Yeah, like most of you TED Talk of all time. You don't just, yeah, exactly. It's so good. It's so good. If you haven't seen it tonight, 20 minutes, carve out that time. She's hilarious. She's super Texan. She's a social worker. She'll like be the first person to tell you that she does not want to talk about feelings. Unfortunately, she became a shame worker, or researcher rather, and so she only talks about feelings. But we're talking about a population that's dealing with a tremendous transition and change. So I think that idea of not curating and really being willing to be present. So this idea of non-judgment can show up in a lot of different ways. And when we're talking about the capacity and the compassion to really deal with students authentically and give them feedback and give them information that might not necessarily overwhelm them, but it'll be really relevant to their experience, there's tremendous growth opportunity for you, but also allows you to begin to take these tools and use them in a way that's very practical. So just to think about something that Brene Brown has theorized, thankfully not to the shame end, her idea about living well, I think, is particularly cultivated in a way that aligns with mindfulness. And she wrote this great book called The Gifts of Imperfection, which I know at the Women's College, starting to talk about imperfection can make people antsy. I went to Smith, so don't ever accuse me of being imperfect. So she talks about this idea of being wholehearted, and she defines it really nicely. She defines it as something that is accessible and present, and it's a place of worthiness. It's a place of I am enough. And when we're thinking about mindfulness, essentially it aligns with that idea of worthiness. It's that if you're uncomfortable because someone's telling you something that you're not ready to hear, that's there. You don't disallow for it, it's there. You take it in and you let it pass. Or if you find that you're scared to be in a position of authority, which sometimes can happen too, all of a sudden you're in over your head, that's fine, and that's there too. Brene Brown defines wholehearted as being worthy, and from that you get joy, you get awareness, you get a level of understanding of self. And what I think is particularly interesting about this potential for mindfulness to grow is that we're planting the seeds in order to become a little bit more wholehearted. And that's not really the way that we talk about leaders. We usually think about leaders as being really strong. But I think what I want to challenge you to do a little bit and to think about carrying this work forward is to think about being a little bit more mindful in your leadership, so that when someone comes to you with a problem, you really hear their problem. You don't just cut to the thing that you want to say. You really listen and you respond. And I think in the feedback that you shared and the work that you've already done today, you've already practiced that and you've started to put those tools into your toolbox. So I'm really excited to be here with you during your training, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again.